Ready? We'll call the meeting to order of the Wright County Planning Commission for June 27th, 2024. First on the agenda tonight is meeting minutes from our previous meeting.
I do have one correction on page 2, where it said Thompson stated she voted against all the way through beginning to end and called for a vote. It should say, and called for the question.
Okay. Is there any other corrections?
Technicality.
If not, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries. All right. Number one on the agenda tonight is Matthew Witchen. Do you want to come up, please, to the podium, give your name for the record, and we will get started.
Matthew Witchen.
Okay. Barry, when you are ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the property is a 40.11 acre site in Silver Creek Township along Armitage Avenue. It has been through a number of hearings in the past. It's currently zoned R2A and was approved for unplatted subdivisions in a couple of different timeframes previously. The current arrangement of the property is how it is approved. This request is for a 2-lot subdivision to create a 5-acre parcel, which is more or less located in between those two homes. That piece that sticks out towards Armitage, leaving the rest of the property as one large parcel. It would have a building right if not further developed, but there is the potential for further development in the future depending upon a number of different factors. So that is pretty much the sum of the request. The proposed lot meets all of the minimum size requirements for an R2A lot. It has proper soils for 2 type 1 septic systems, and as a parcel that's 5 acres or greater, it is not required to be platted, so this would be an unplatted subdivision request. We did receive approval from Silver Creek Township. That's the only comments we received.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything you would like to add to it?
Barry said it all.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? Gail there, if you want to have, just have a seat right there, and then if you want to come up here and give your name for the record. If you want to just sit down, right in the chair there.
Hi, Brittany Jorgensen. We were just curious, we recently moved to Buffalo in a location near this development, or what would be this development. Is there a possibility that this would be expanded upon? I think there's some fear that it would start as perhaps just 2 parcels, and then that's how it starts, and then developments would continue to come. So there's a question in our neighborhood about that.
Barry, do you want to answer
It's
that?
certainly a possibility, given the zoning of the property. You know, if new roads are built, there's limited road frontage for the remainder now. So any further development would require new roads. If the township is willing to take those over, then it's usually, most of the time, it's not all that difficult to proceed with a further development of the rest of that property. From there, other properties around it, it all depends upon where they are in our land use plan. Our commission relies real heavily on what our guided plan says for development. So if it's not in the plan, it's a lot less likely to be approved than something that is. So we're in Wright County development. It's something that's going to occur. We're trying to keep it guided to specific areas. We do our best to accommodate that with rare exceptions where we deviate.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this matter? If not, you can come back to the podium. And we'll bring it back up here to the board. Does the board have any questions, concerns as to what is being proposed? If not, do I have a motion?
Everyone full from supper or what?
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion to approve the recommendation for two-lot unplatted subdivision in accord with the survey completed by Auto Associates dated 4/3/2024, project number 24-0173 with the following conditions. Number one, if required by Silver Creek Township, access permits must be obtained prior to any construction activity commencing. Two, per feedlot regulations, R2A parcels will be allowed 1/2 animal unit per acre and are limited to less than 10 animal units regardless of parcel size.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? There's no other discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same way. Motion carries. All right, thank you. Number 2 on the agenda tonight is Zachary Arns. You want to come up, please give your name for the record, and we will proceed.
I'm not Zach, obviously. I'm Ingrid Langsetmo, property owner of the property in question.
Okay. Barry?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, property's 37.05 acres, sits between County Road 35 to the east, Crowfoot Avenue to the west, and actually County Road 9 to the north. It is currently zoned general agricultural with a partial S2 residential recreational shoreland overlay. This request is to rezone that property to agricultural residential with a part S2 recreational shoreland overlay. It is in the plan. It does have some zoning that has occurred around it. Concept plan is simply to create 2 lots, although it's 37 acres. Their request right now is strictly to create those 2 lots as shown, which would be, if approved for the rezoning, they would come back for that 2-lot subdivision request. We did receive approval from Chatham Township indicating no concerns with the proposal.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to add to that?
I think you covered it.
Okay. Is there anything here from the board that would, before I go to the public? And I forgot to start from the beginning of the meeting. When the public comes up, I'm going to, throughout the whole night, allow 4 minutes. If you could please get your piece spoken in a 4-minute allot time. We have shot clocks up there you can watch and up here to kind of know where you're at for timing. Just because some of the things on the items tonight could get rather lengthy. So if there's anyone that would like to speak to this item, gentleman there, if you want to have a seat, please. And if the gentleman would like to come up, give your name, please, for the record.
Tim Powell, I'm a neighbor across the road from this stuff. I'm just concerned as to what is the plan? Are they gonna divide that and add more residential housing? Is that what they want to split it and then add housing to the other side? Or what is the intention of cutting the property in half? And then I would wonder with Ingrid's got such a nice barn there, if you cut it in half, how many animals are gonna be allowed? Would they have less land than the barn could allow then, or what would be the concern? Because one thought is, you know, you cut it in half and suddenly can have 5 horses and he's got a 20 stall barn. It doesn't sell after that. So
Gary, do you want to answer those questions?
Yes, I can. The rezoning process would allow for 1 home on that property to the west. The property to the east already has a home, so that's 1 building right for that 10-acre or larger size property. The one to the west would be allowed a home as well. Further development would require another hearing similar to this to reduce the size even further, because it's a 10-acre minimum in the zoning district that's being requested. So they can't create a lot less than 10 acres in size. As far as the animal units, ag residential properties are not allowed to reach 10 animal units. So in the case of the existing barn, if it drops down to 20 acres or less, they can't get to 10 because of acreage size. And even if it was more than 20, it wouldn't be allowed any more than that. For horses, it would be 9 adult horses was the max you would have. Our county feedlot officer tracks this stuff very, very closely. And those types of conditions would be then assigned at the subdivision phase, which would occur sometime after this phase. And so we would condition it that it can't reach 10 animal units and it's a half an animal unit per acre other than that.
Right. But so the intention here anyway is to split it now and then somebody's got in mind to purchase?
It's a different property owner that's requesting it
Yeah.
with the signature of the current property owner. So yes, the person that's actually on this application is somebody that wants to purchase it.
Yeah, so his intention is to come back then and get the permit to build a new house on there? What have you heard?
That I can't say.
That's up to the property owner.
In the end, it doesn't matter to
Right.
us.
Right, that's not a,
There's the ability to build a house there if approved, no matter who owns it.
yeah, I was just kind of hoping it'd stay pasture land, that's all. So, that's my concern. I'd rather it stay pasture land. And then, instead of having another house across the street. So,
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this? Gentleman back there, if you want to come up, give your name, please. You- you-
That happens here.
He can give his name this time.
Adam Jorgensen, Brittany's wife or husband, and we actually just moved up to this area in December of this year, and we moved from Rogers, where in the 8 years that we lived there, we watched the population double, and we had nice agricultural land around us in Rogers that was owned by a nice Hmong community that got sold, and we essentially got surrounded by townhomes in the matter of a year. So I guess our main concern is, we moved up here, we got 3 acres of land on a lake. We love it. Privacy was a big reason that we moved up here. We love this property across the street with the horses and the nice barn and,
It was our dream to get that house at one point.
yeah, so I guess our main concern is, we moved up here to try to get away from this, and now are we just gonna get surrounded again by development that we've just been trying to get away from this whole time? So our main concern, I guess, is this gonna be a house with a barn and then another house with a barn? Or is this something that's gonna turn into a bigger development down the road, would be my main question.
So our land use plan guides this for rural residential, which is primarily rezoning to ag residential, which is a 10-acre lot minimum. There is some specific language in the land use plan about when we should realistically be looking at something that may be a little bit more denser, infill areas, those types of things. In general, though, the county has a 1-acre lot minimum, and very seldom do we actually see many 1-acre lots anymore. So you're not looking at a city-type development where they're putting in 10,000 square foot lots, jamming them full of homes. We don't have services that can sustain that. We don't have public sewer, we don't have public water. These are generally, volunteer fire departments and other things. So the services that we provide, we keep our lots a little bit bigger, try to push that super high density type of housing into the cities. That's where we want it. So there again, is there potential for maybe a little more? I can't say no. I don't know what a future buyer might want to come in and propose or what the commission might want to entertain. Overall, I can't deny an application for rezoning because I don't like it or I don't think it's a good idea. That's up for them to decide. But it's unlikely to be a super dense type of development. One is access on the county roads is going to be limited with the intersection that's there, especially in this case. Topography is going to limit road placement, which is going to limit the number of lots that could ever go in there. Those types of things are all factors that would play into this specific piece of property. There again, I've learned 25 years in the zoning world. I've learned to not say never, but it's unlikely to be super. Any type of dense type of housing. 5-acre lot certainly could be, but even then, it's a bit of a stretch with the particular layout of this lot. It's not impossible, but it's Certainly not. Common.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Again,
you.
Nice to see you again, Brittany.
Is there anyone else that would like to comment? If not, the applicant can step back up. And does the board have any questions, concerns?
Sorry about that.
Mr. Chair, I don't really have any questions. I think that it's consistent with the surrounding properties for development in this nature, with R2 suburban on one part of, on one bordering one and ag residential bordering the other. And it is the property owner's request, and everything that they're requesting is well within our land use plan.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? If there's no other comments, is somebody willing to propose a motion?
Mr. Chair, I had one question to the applicant. Now, on your proposed split on the parcel to the west, the highway department's probably going to have you gain access on that from Crowfoot. Are you aware of that?
Yes, and Zach had gone to the county, and they said they didn't think that would be an issue, and there is access there. I don't know how much modification it would need, but they said they would be willing to do that as well.
Okay, very well. Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay, Kent?
I would move that we recommend approval to the County Board of Commissioners to rezone PID number 202-000-274201 from Ag General Agricultural and Part S2 Residential Recreational Shoreland to AR Agricultural Residential and Part S2 Residential Recreational Shoreland, because it finds the property is aligned with the goals and policies of the Northwest Quadrant Land Use Plan.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion here? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same way. Motion carries. Thank you. Number 3 on the agenda tonight is Zeb Haney. You want to give your name, please, for the record?
Zeb Haney. And I'm Marty Campion, project engineer.
Okay. When you're ready, Barry?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the property is 102 acres and should be extremely familiar with the commission. We had a number of public hearings regarding the rezoning and establishment of the PUD in 2023 and early 2024. This is the subdivision portion of that request. As recommended by the Planning Commission in their approval for the plan unit development, the applicant has went with the restricted lands concept plan, which includes a 31 and change acre parcel with the original farmstead that's going to be limited to generally agricultural uses only. It is AR zoned, which does have its own limitations as far as horse numbers and those types of things. The one thing we did see, and Josh and I just found it yesterday when a member of Mr. Haney's team was asking about park dedication fees that would be associated with approval of this, and we noticed that the lot sizes were different than the concept plan that was submitted for their last approval, and it was because the lines of the lots aren't drawn to the ordinary high water mark. So we have asked Mr. Miller, their guy drawing this, to make those recommended changes. So we do have that. We did receive comment from the township that the developers have met with the township. The township has reviewed the preliminary plat and plan sheets. They're requesting the developer look at removal of the existing cul-de-sac and extension of the road. And the township requests that the township engineer review the plans. They did not, in their information to us, actually give a tacit approval for the plan as presented. We did have one neighbor provide comment. It's fairly lengthy, and I did include that in your packet.
Thank you. Is there anything you would like to add to that to start with?
No.
Okay. Is there anything here the board would like to ask first before I go to the public? Dan?
So, just one, I was reading the township comments, and there's a comment about using a temporary entrance off of 110th for a construction entrance. And it says here that Miller says that it's something they could do, they'd have to do something with fencing. I suppose it's for silt fencing maybe, I'm not sure what that was meant.
It was for the existing fencing that's around the,
Oh, the existing fence?
Yes.
Okay. When it comes to a temporary construction entrance, is this for just the development of the lots on the road, and then that would be closed?
this would be just for the development of the, yes, the construction of the subdivision. And then once that's completed, the home construction would use the existing roads and the new road.
Okay, that's all I need. Thank you.
Anything else here? I'll open this up to the public. Is there anyone from the public? If you guys want to have a seat and just take your notes, and you can have rebuttal afterwards. If you want to come and please give your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Keith Butcher. I live at 4019 115th Street, Southeast Delano, Minnesota. I'm here to express my concerns about this development, Eastwood Ridge, located southeast Franklin Township. There's been numerous up and downs with this, the progression of this development starting on March 7th here in this building. Several important concerns were brought to your attention, which you acted on, and some of them being public safety concerns, police and fire rescue times, lot sizes, and not having a through street. The Planning and Zoning Committee at that time made it clear that if a development proposal vote at that time was done, it wasn't promising for the developer. So it was tabled for the next month. April 4th, Planning and Zoning meeting came. The development was proposed once again with very minor changes, if any, but it was passed without hesitation. Everyone was a little blindsided, and it felt like some of our concerns were forgotten. On that day, some of the main points that I would like to focus on were brought up by Mr. Vanderlinny, who stated several times that having the extension to Eckert through to 110th Street was not feasible because of the cost. He mentioned it would be approximately $1.1 million for the extra 500 feet to make the connection. My question is, has anybody seen this proposal or bid? Why are we taking his word for this? If private residents and government entities need something on paper, I don't see why he wouldn't, in my mind's eye. Mr. Vanderlei mentioned that the township was broke and needed the tax base, but decisions like these are not made based on financial gain, and the records from the township indicate that they are far from broke. Furthermore, our residents realize that we're not going to stop this development from happening. We just feel strongly about some of the concerns, and we want to be heard, and hoping that the Planning and Zoning Commission would address them. So if they're throwing out calculations, 1.1 million, we talked to Franklin Township and said it's $1 million per mile. So with their proposed 1,100 feet, they would spend $209,000 to build the road that they're proposing. Our proposal for the through street is 1,700 more feet at the very farthest, which is an additional $323,000, which is a ton of money. And I am not undersizing or undermining that at all. But it is a far cry from $1.1 million. And lastly, on April 4th, the meeting discussion of the county was about an ordinance 15432B, which is a cul-de-sac being over 500 feet in length, which was dismissed. As Mr. Vanderlinde mentioned, there are several developments in that area with a cul-de-sac over 500 feet. One of them in particular was the Cedar Lake development, which was located on the corner of 86th Street Southeast and 113th Street Southeast. But if you look at it on an aerial map, It cannot be a through street because there's a swamp, a wetland right behind it, thus allowing it to be more than 500 feet. Mr. Vanderlinde never presented an aerial map of the Cedar Lake development or any of the other ones for obvious reason. Planning and zoning member Pat Malberg reminded everyone that this ordinance is there for a reason, and allowing the changes should have valid reasoning. We have not been presented with any of these things that warrants this, minus them wanting to save money. Lastly,
Try to wrap it up, please.
okay, we're good,
Good.
I guess. Okay, thank you.
If there's anything you want to do to wrap it up, I'll give you another minute. I mean, if you want something to finish up.
Just there's been a lot of talk about Mr. Leuven's homestead and the barn and trying to keep it untouched because he wants to sell it for maximum dollars, which he is, $2.5 million. Plus, if he sells all the lots, which is a going rate of another $4.2 million, a $7 million payday is pretty good without touching any of the buildings or the structures that you all visited.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment? Please come up and give your name, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Amy Warner. I live at 4251 115th Street. My husband Billy and I own the restricted use farm located adjacent to this property and the Rice Lake Retreat development. We purchased our home 2 years ago and learned throughout the past months attending these meetings that our farm that we bought also has restricted use. This was not disclosed to us during the sale of our property, and had I not taken an interest in this development, I would still not know about that restriction. I reached out to the county planner, Josh Butteris, a few months ago to ask him exactly what we're restricted from doing with our property. He told me at this point we're restricted to just that one building entitlement on our lot. But with the area around us substantially changing, those restrictions could potentially be removed. At the March Planning Commission meeting, the restricted use on the horse farm was discussed. There was some questions as to whether restricted use would allow a horse boarding facility or a riding stable to operate here. It's feasible to think that someone purchasing that property might want to operate something like that. They may want to sell it off, to 10 acres or more in the future, and under the current land use plan, they should be able to do that. The future owners will only discover at that time they cannot use their property the way they fully intended. Restricted lands in section 155059J of the Wright County ordinances states that in general, the creation of restricted lands shall be for the purpose of preserving productive agricultural land while providing for the clustering of residential sites on non-productive land. In this instance, the developer is taking the only productive agricultural land on that 102 acres and clustering 11 of the new 14 homes on it. I don't see how restricted use to the horse farm applies in this instance. It only makes that farm larger and brings them a bigger return for the farm. The ordinance also states that those reasonable restrictions upon such lands shall be stated by the Planning Commission at the time of the preliminary development plan approval, and said restrictions shall be recorded with the final development plan. I would like you to please keep in mind that any restricted use you put on that horse farm likely stays with us here tonight. That horse farm is currently on the market for $2.5 million, sitting on 31.9 acres. I have the disclosure forms with me tonight. The seller has not disclosed any sort of restricted use on that farm. It would appear they're hoping to sell the horse farm without disclosing restricted use and before the property is surrounded by 14 new homes. Looking at section 155059 further, G2.f, per this section of the ordinance, this information should be provided by the developer at this phase. The agreements, provisions, or covenants which govern the use, maintenance, and continued protection of the PUD and any of its common open area or restricted lands. Do we have those available tonight? Do we know if they're going to be creating an HOA for the subdivision? From my understanding, there was an HOA created when the Rice Lake Retreat development was formed, and that HOA included the farm. the new owners of the farm later had to file a lawsuit to be removed from the HOA because it restricted them from building, needed shelter or barns. What if the HOA restricted farm animals? Couldn't have horses on the horse farm. With the conflicts and questions this creates for the horse farm, the developers so strongly want to preserve, I believe having a designated open space for this development and not including the horse farm, should there be an HOA, would be the best way to proceed. The restricted use only benefits the developers in creating larger lots and generating more profits. We would also like to see the agreements that govern the use and protection of the wetland and the setbacks from Rice Lake to be provided before proceeding.
Let's try to wrap it up, please.
Okay, thank you for your time tonight.
Right, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment? Gail over there.
Hi there. My name's Courtney Bragg, and I live at 4308 115th Street. I have two items tonight. The first, when looking at the plans that the developer provided, it seems that they are showing the minimum standard for the plan house pad locations. The 11 homes off of the Eckert Avenue extension are shown centered along the lot's street face at the county's minimum setback requirement of 65 feet. As a buyer of a 4 to 10 plus acre lot in what the developer has called a high-end development, which I realize there's no guarantee of that, the likelihood of putting all of these homes at the minimum 65-foot setback from the road is pretty unlikely. The chance of this commission having 11 or possibly 14 variances to review in the near future is pretty likely, which not only leads to excessive work on your part, but also that of the staff. It will also impact the stormwater management plan that the developer is putting forth for your review today. Of the current plan, Eckert Avenue lots, 7 of the 11 house pad locations are shown in the existing fields, which yield the smallest impact to the stormwater management plan. I'd ask that the commission have the developer look at the house pad locations for each of the lots for a more realistic location, one that's in harmony with the existing development per chapter 155 of the ordinance. By identifying these new locations, there'd be a more successful stormwater management plan, and this would also be less likely to merit a return trip to the Planning Commission for a variance. Secondly, it's my understanding that per 155059 G2E at this phase of the project, the developer is to provide a development schedule with approximate dates for each stage of this project. In asking Barry, that hasn't been provided at this point. At the March 7th meeting, there's a lot of assumptions thrown around about timelines. Mr. Haney commented that based on his real estate background, a home build should take 10 to 14 months, which is probably true, but as someone who lives in the neighborhood, what we are interested in is how long does it take from the point the first piece of equipment is brought on site until the last subcontractor leaves the 14th home. We're the ones that are gonna be there living through the construction noise, the construction dirt, the construction traffic, the tree clearing, and the road damage. And we're really looking for a timeline that takes it from start to finish. We've seen in the previous development on 115th and Aiken, the construction of 5 homes has taken 3 years and counting. On the final 5th home, the basement was just poured. So according to Mr. Haney's schedule of months that he gave, we have about 12 months to go. So it's gonna take 4 years to build 5 homes. And now we're talking 11. I know that there's ways to shorten timelines, such as pre-selling lots prior to road construction, bringing in select builders. I don't know if they have any of those things planned, but a schedule to help identify those things or understand those things would be really great to see.
Right.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Gail there?
Hi, my name is Joy Piper. I'm at 11540 Eckert Avenue. And so I am property that would be right on the left-hand side of what you're looking at. So a couple concerns I have. One, as potentially a great deal of trees are removed from that property, my property sits lower, and so wanting to know what's going to be done to prevent runoff onto my property. And really, biggest concern I have is why is this having to connect to our neighborhood? It is definitely, using the terminology that's been used before, inconsistent with the neighborhood that's already there. There's no way that the types of homes, the type of community that we all moved out there to enjoy is going to be available in this space because of the size of the properties. And again, thinking about just the potential, when you look at the high water mark and the potential for flooding in those areas, those houses are going to have to be quite a bit smaller than the rest of the neighborhood. So it's absolutely inconsistent with what's already there. And I would ask that it still be reconsidered. If a temporary road can be put in for construction, why can't this entire subdivision be separate from what's already there? Because it is in no way the same. So keep us separate. You've got the tree line, and have the construction road that you're building off of 110, let that become your permanent access to the neighborhood, because it really is a different neighborhood. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment? Anyone else that would like to comment? The applicant wants to step back up, and if you want to have any response to some of the questions that have been brought up.
I will try and respond to the questions. If I forget something and you guys remember, let me know. First of all, relative to an HOA, it is not our intent to have or develop an HOA with the project. We don't have any common open space. We don't have anything for an HOA or that an HOA would need to manage. So it's our intent that we would not have an HOA for this project. There was a comment relative to setbacks in needing variances. The setbacks, as you all know, are established by the county. We do have to meet the setback requirements. There won't be any variance requests relative to the setbacks or the easements. Another comment regarding the house pad locations that we're showing on the plans. The plans are, as far as the house pad locations or the home locations and the septic locations, they're conceptual. They're to show that we do have enough space on each lot for a primary and alternate septic site and a house site. I wouldn't expect to see all of the houses where we show them here. People are going to have other ideas on where they'd like to position their homes, but they will have to meet the setback requirements that are established as part of this in the county. One of the other comments was relative to the runoff to the south from the project. And are you able to put the grading plan up? If the woman that spoke lives on the east side of Eckert, you can see we're putting a pond along our south property line, east side of the road. A lot of that drainage that currently flows from north to south will be intercepted by the pond. We're reducing the rate and then discharging it to the ditch. So there'll be a pretty significant reduction in runoff to that property. The property on the west side of Eckert, a lot of the runoff is being directed to the ditch, and then there's some north to south runoff because of the existing topography that will remain, but it won't increase to the homes that are just south of the property. There was another comment regarding the high water. This property from the south, it rises in elevation as we go north. All of our homes are quite a bit above the ordinary high, and we will be meeting the separation requirements from high water elevations to low floor that are necessary. And development schedule, what we can tell you is, as far as the subdivision construction, we'll start as soon as practical after we receive approval and get bids. As far as the homes, it's subject to the market and the sales. So ideally, if Zeb had his way, they'd all be sold and built in 1 year, but that's not likely and almost impossible to happen with that many homes. So the homes will be constructed as the market dictates and as they sell. And if I missed anything,
Dan?
Okay, I have one question concerning the holding pond there. Now, I'm assuming you're gonna have road ditches on both sides.
yes.
So when the water travels to the west on the north side of the road, is it gonna be a culvert going across to that holding pond?
Yes, in the drawing that you're looking at here, north is to the right, so the west side, the road runs north-south. There is a culvert.
Sorry, I was looking at
The
the emblem
key
at the
at the
bottom here. The
bottom.
key said north was the other way.
So there is a culvert,
Yep.
if you're looking at the grading plan, there is a culvert that picks up the water that's in the west road ditch and runs it to that linear pond that's on the east side. And then there's a drain tile that releases it at a lower rate into the ditch on the east side of Eckerd Avenue,
And that's coming out, the drain tile's out of the holding pond.
out of the holding pond, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Then this is wrong.
Okay.
I was looking at it the whole time thinking north was the way the key was on the map.
Well, and the one I'm looking at, the north arrow is pointing to the right.
Oh, you're right, there's two.
Oh,
You're
there's
right, you're
two of
right.
them.
I was looking at the one at the bottom, there's.
Yeah, I was too.
Yeah, it's
part of the logo.
logo.
Sorry.
Oh, part of my logo.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
sorry.
They look the same, by the way.
They are the same, so.
See how we could get confused.
I'm usually not actually challenged, so,
You're done, Dan?
yep.
Janice, did you have something?
Well, I have a follow-up question in a way. So you're diverting water from that pond out to the street, and it's going to be running to the south along the street, underground, I assume?
In the road ditch.
Yes, okay. And once it gets down to where the cul-de-sac is now, there's drawings that show that the water heads to the west then? Is that so? Or where are you gonna put the water as the end product? Does it go into the lake?
As, it will go where it goes now, and I would guess it goes into the lake, but it'll go into the ditch and run along,
Excuse me, it'll go into the what?
into the ditch along Eckerd. We're removing that existing cul-de-sac and creating or constructing a typical road and building the ditches on each side of that.
So it'll go down the ditches on
Yes.
both sides of the Eckerd Avenue?
And most of our water, and again, it's a smaller drain tile, but most of our water, because it's being diverted into the pond, will go on the east ditch of Eckerd Avenue. Because we're intercepting it again with that cross culvert that was referred to earlier.
And so where is it going to finally end up? Where is the stop point of the water that's going to be released from all these higher areas?
I would assume it's going into the lake, but I'm not positive of that. We are releasing a lesser rate to the south than currently goes there.
So is this spot here, if you look at the screen, that spot there is where that tile is
Yes,
on the west side?
yeah, so that intercepts the west ditch and routes it to the pond.
And that's just from basically this point.
Yes,
Everything north of that flows north, everything south of that flows south this way, and then you'll have an interceptor drain tile here that would bring some of this water out of this ditch across to this pond. And where's the outlet to this pond?
there's a tile that goes to the southwest out of that pond.
Back into the ditch?
Yes, back into the ditch.
Are you good, Janice?
That's,
I guess my question on that, how is that designed for how much rainfall? Is that designed for an inch rainfall, the pond for 2-inch rainfall?
It's designed for the 2, 10, and 100-year storm events to release the same or less to the south than it is going there now.
So,
So it's 3 different storm events that it's designed for.
okay.
Question. So you guys have had a lot of rain down in that area. Are you seeing, I mean, have you gone out there to look to see how things are looking? Because this is unprecedented rain that you've had in the Delano area. Have you seen flooding? Because, I mean, if that's a major concern, have you been out there looking at what's
I've not been
happening?
out there during one of the rain events, no.
Because, I mean, Delano's for the last week has been, I think it's just finally going down now. Has anybody from, Barry, has anybody from our office been out there to take a look at? Because if we have some concerns about the wetlands and has anybody been out there to take a look? or-
No, it's designated floodplain, and from my understanding, we're not at 100-year flood stage levels.
Okay.
So floodplain has been established here. It does exist. We just adopted a new floodplain ordinance that is, will be a factor on the lakeshore properties and on a couple that may not technically be lakeshore, they're ditch shore. The ones that are along 110th Street. And the plan that's here does include the 100-year flood elevation as a marked spot, a marked line on the map. And so from a flood level, no, we haven't been back out there because it's elevations that we're dealing with here isn't anything of concern when it comes from a 100-year flood standpoint. We did review that as part of the original rezoning request, and we had access to what are our new adopted maps at the time they applied, and we did verify that, areas where they're proposing lots had enough elevation above flood stage to, have suitable area for housing.
Thank you.
Okay,
I have a question.
Sandy.
On the notes from the Franklin Township, dated Tuesday, June 4th, and it states our board notes from our meeting last night. And I would assume they were looking at these same drawings, but they had a concern about on sheet 5, the cul-de-sac is flat and we need a crown in there. Can the extension be brought back to the south and then removed and reshaped the rows? They also had questions about the water and other things. Am I to assume correctly that they have concerns with the drawings we're looking at?
Can I speak to
Yes,
that?
yes, please do.
These plans, yes, they did have concerns. These plans have been revised. There's a revision note down in the lower left-hand corner that it was, the plans that you have on the screen have been revised per those comments. So for example, if you look at what's on the screen now, we're showing that entire cul-de-sac being removed in order to put the crown back into the street, and then it'll be a street. So we've addressed the township comments and resubmitted to them. Their engineer is reviewing them now.
And we don't have a response from them yet, correct, Barry?
They won't meet until first week of July to provide additional comment.
And their comments were relatively minor to address.
Yeah, I'd just like to hear the comments from them.
Yep.
Mr. Chair.
Ken?
Mr. Campion or Mr. Haney, what would, on Lot 6, there's a proposed restriction on that. What is the nature of that restriction?
I suspect it'll just end up that it can't be re-subdivided, something like that.
And that was a requirement due to the PUD requirements, PUD?
Yeah, that lot will be considered restricted land, so it's gonna be the commission that sets the restrictions. In general, it's limited to no non-agricultural uses.
Did you say the commission sets the restriction?
That would be part of the conditions that you set in the approval, when you make a motion for approval,
I see.
or if you make a motion for approval.
Okay. Another question, Mr. Chair. Now, Mr. Campion, I don't believe you were here at last meeting, but Mr. Haney, I believe you were, along with your realtor, Mr. Vanderlinde. Is that last meeting? Was that what, May or April? I can't remember. But in any event, at the time you had two proposals. One with an outlot, like a common use area, and something similar to this. Why did you choose this one over the other one?
It was lot size, wasn't it?
It was lot size, and there was really no real good reason for the outlot for the common open space. I thought it was better served to increase the lot sizes, which we did. We shifted the road a little bit and increased the lot sizes.
So the additional little triangle way back deep in lots 1 through 4, 5, that adds value, but in terms of increasing the lot size, probably yes. But what about utility?
It probably adds value, and for the same reason, that outlot back there didn't, if I owned one of those lots on the west side, a common open space behind it, if there were people walking in what I perceived my backyard, I didn't see value to that. So I suggested that we remove the common open space. That's what we presented to the township, and that's what they approved or they liked.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
So, Member Felger, this is the proposal with common open space.
I'm sorry, Barry, I didn't hear you.
This is the proposal that included the common open space that you looked at in April.
Any other questions, concerns? I know we really haven't addressed anything about a road going through. I know there's properties for sale, but that was some discussion and something that was brought up again by the residents. So I think, does anybody have thoughts there? I guess, do you have any response to that?
Our comment on that is we've been before the township 3 times with this project, with this plan, and this is what they approved and we're moving forward with.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Campion, was the township adamantly opposed to a through street?
We did not propose a through street. It was brought up and questioned by the residents. So whether they were adamantly opposed, they didn't have something to review. They didn't ask for it, so we didn't provide it.
Any other comment? How does the board want to proceed? Township has been asking us if they want their engineer to look at it. Do we want to continue this?
I don't feel comfortable voting for this until we see what the engineer from the township has to say.
And the county is also asking, the revisions for what they found with the drawing going down further into the wetlands. Is that correct, Barry?
Yep, give me just one second. So on this plan, the dark line where it says edge of water, that's what these lot sizes are calculated on, when that line needs to be backed up to the ordinary high water mark and those lots recalculated.
Okay.
And we will do that. That won't change anything other than the lot sizes. Right now, the legal description for the property, they own to the edge of water, and we weren't aware that that's what the county wanted, so that's why they're platted to the edge of water rather than the wetland, or excuse me, rather than the ordinary high.
Edge of water today is a lot different than what
Yes.
it shows on this drawing. That's why we use the ordinary high water mark. It's established by the DNR, it's an elevation, it's solid.
Right, and I understand that, but it's a confusing legal description when it's described to the edge of water. It's a silly legal description.
I don't like those.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it won't change anything other than the lot sizes on that.
I understand that, but it's a matter of getting it right
Well, and there's, those kind of changes oftentimes are handled in between preliminary and final as well. If they don't significantly change or substantially change the project.
Okay,
Dan,
Janice.
I have another question that maybe you can help me out with. It was brought up this evening that the lot sizes here are different than the lot sizes south of the existing cul-de-sacs. That they're smaller, was I hearing correct? The lot sizes that are there now and the houses that have been developed and are placed in the area south of this proposal.
When I looked at that, I thought all our lot sizes were very comparative, or a number of them were larger.
They were larger. Do they have more? Do their lots have more frontage on the roadway than what you're proposing here?
That I don't know.
Because I see here that 201 feet, 348 feet, 307 feet. I can't remember what the lot sizes were. Do you remember the lot frontage, Barry?
For which ones?
The ones to the south.
They all look to be in that neighborhood of 300.
Pardon?
300 or
The
more.
existing.
So they're in the same ballpark then as the previous,
The lot widths here are a little bit smaller. The lots themselves are going to be similar in size, maybe a little bit smaller, some on the lakeshore, but larger ones back behind without the open space. That previous development, other than the large restricted lot, I don't believe any of them are going to reach the size of the 5 lots that are west of the road and cul-de-sac. Similar to the lots up on the street, those are larger lots in comparison to what is in the PUD to the south. So it's a mix. Some are going to be really close to the same size. There's going to be some that are smaller, and there's going to be some that are larger, from what I can see in comparing just kind of the aerial view and the beacon layout of the properties.
We have not asked for a reduction in lot width, so we are meeting what the county ordinance requires.
Minimum width in AR is actually 300 feet, and there's some here that are going to be less than that, but that's part of the PUD. That's where the commission has the ability to reduce those lot sizes, which we commonly see in PUDs. It's nothing, pretty much every PUD I think I've seen, that's commonly where you see the reduction is in the lot width at the road, with sizes varying depending upon how it can be laid out.
Okay, thank you, Barry.
thank you. Thank you.
I guess, how does it, Dan? I know
I'm
you want to
prepared
say
to make a
something.
motion.
Okay,
It doesn't look like it's gonna happen tonight, so I'm gonna make a motion to continue. I hate to do this, but I like to make a motion to continue to the July 18th meeting. So the applicant can work through and review the revisions of the township and provide an updated preliminary plat sheet.
I'll second that.
motion made and seconded. Do we have any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries.
Can I just ask if the commission has any concerns or revisions that they would like to see other than what Barry had mentioned relative to the lot depth along the lake?
I don't believe so that we've really discussed.
Mr. Chair,
Dan?
as far as the cul-de-sac, we had discussed this on this board before. We felt the township had vetted this several times already, and this is what they wanted. They wanted the cul-de-sac versus a through street. So I'm just gonna make that comment, so I wouldn't look for any change on that. As far as the construction road, that's between, if the township is gonna okay something like that, then you have to have some good plans for that, how you're gonna do a construction road in there.
The temporary construction
Yeah,
access?
temporary construction, yep.
Do you have anything else, Barry? For the applicant?
The only thing would be is that it's, the township should indicate approval if they're going to approve. That the last comment we got from them, it just said they wanted to have more review of it. So if they're gonna approve it, they need to, I would recommend they actually provide that approval and any requested conditions that they may want to see.
So
Okay.
when you go back to them, pressure them to help us out.
We will do that.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Number 4 is Michael and Darcy. You want to give your names, please, for the record? Maybe hold on for a second here and let the room clear. Okay, if you want to give your names for the record, please.
Michael and Darcy Schomling.
I'm Michael, that's Darcy.
Barry, when you're ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a request for Fall Harvest Orchard. Roughly 41 acres with road frontage along County Road 30 to the west and Ahern Avenue to the southeast. Little bit of history on this one. I mean, it's been a known orchard in the county since the 80s. Never did have an approved CUP back when CUPs would have been required for commercial outdoor recreation. And so the applicants came to us asking about, wanting to potentially make some improvements and do some things on the property. And so we kind of took a step back. They submitted a business plan to us maybe a year and a half ago. We reviewed it, and then now they've came forward and are trying to get a liquor license for alcohol sales. And so we're like, we need to take the orchard and how it exists with what they have in their business plan and get the IUP established for the activities that are taking place. That way, going forward, we have a base to work off of. So that's kind of what this request is to kind of memorialize the use as it exists out on the property through the IUP process and allow the expansion to include alcohol sales and a commercial slide that they're looking to install on the property. That way we can make sure we get the proper building permits and proper inspections to go along with that type of amenity that's available there. Internally, staff, we have a lot of discussions on uses like this and when do we require amendments and when we don't, because there's a lot of things that can be added that really don't change or alter or really make a big difference for the use, but there's some things that can. And so we're kind of, with commercial outdoor recreation or commercial ag tourism, as we've seen with the winery just down the road and some other ones that we have, some uses that get added have more impact than others, and we're trying to make a determination on where and when those start and stop. So in this particular case, that original review of it and evaluation didn't exist because there is no CUP to really go from. So that's what we're looking now. From personal experience and knowing what's out there, I know things have been added in the past 6-8 years. I'm not looking at going back and having us review necessarily all of that. It's just memorializing what they have submitted as their current activities, what they're looking at for immediate proposed changes, and then getting that into some form of approval in a document so that we can work through other things that they have planned going forward. We've talked about a few different things, commercial kitchens and those types of things, and all of those would then be amendments that would be needed at the time those come through. So what we have right now, you have in your packets narratives and proposed plans. This is kind of an immense thing, so I didn't do a motion for the commission. I do have kind of a sample or a prospective motion written up with a different list of conditions, which I might pipe up throughout the conversation to get a little bit more clarity and clarification from the commission, so that if you do want to act tonight, we could have a good motion at the end of the day. Ultimately, Franklin Township did approve the orchard as it exists with the addition of alcohol sales, and we didn't get any other comments.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think that was great. Thank you for that. Yeah, we're just honored to try to continue on the fall harvest tradition. So Kurt and Helen Peterson started the orchard. They bought it in 1976, and they started planting apple trees in the early 80s, and just kind of blossomed from there. And unfortunately, Kurt passed away in 2015, and my wife and I were longtime customers, and we wanted to keep it going. And here we are in front of you. So, so that's kind of been our journey. It's been an honor to try to continue on the tradition that they built. So thank you.
I guess maybe you can give us a little bit of what your thoughts are for alcohol. I mean, there's, when you talk alcohol, it can go all the way from distilleries to breweries to wineries. So, I mean, it's, when you say alcohol, it's, I guess, what are
Yeah.
you looking at? Limited?
Yeah,
You take it from there.
very limited. So basically, we're trying to keep up with the competition. So there's a lot of orchards around us that have alcohol available. There's a lot of orchards in the metro area, and it's a draw. So we're just trying to keep up with the competition. We're open 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're a family-oriented place, so it's not going to be a crazy party atmosphere. It's going to be a very controlled atmosphere in terms of people just having one, something maybe unique like a cider that they haven't tried before. We're not going to distill anything on our property. It's going to be alcohol that's commercially available. So we're not planning on opening up a distillery or a winery or anything like that. It's just an option for customers as they enjoy the orchard.
Are you
Mr.
just
Chair,
looking?
maybe if I can interject, I'm sorry. Just to follow up with your question, because I unfortunately get the job of also dealing with liquor law licensing in the county. So
Okay.
I'm just curious, what type of license are you specifically looking for? Because in the county, it's a lot different than in a city. We are really restricted to what we can issue. So what are you hoping to get?
Do you remember, we started the process back in January, and so we've kind of gone through the whole gamut. We've talked to the Franklin Township, we've talked to the state, we've talked to the county, and now I think we talked to Franklin Township. So they keep sending us back and forth. But I think it's do you know?
It would be like the packaged beer and then like wine. Probably some mixed drinks, and we asked for a Sunday use too because we would serve it on Saturdays and Sundays when we're open.
Okay.
So you're looking for more than a shot to put in your hot chocolate or your cider?
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna line up shots on the bar counter or anything for people. It's more like maybe like some orchards offer kind of a apple cider maybe with a little bit of alcohol,
Right,
so something like that. Yep. We're not looking to do shots or anything crazy like that.
Yeah, and for the commission, I don't think they could get that type of license in the county.
Just trying to clarify.
And we don't want that type of license.
No, what we have versus what a city can issue, our statutory authority is severely limited compared to a city. So when he says an apple orchard in the metro area, those are going to be in a municipality, and they have completely different zoning regulations than we do out in a township. If this is in the city of Delano, corporate limits, he could have the full gamut of liquor laws. In the county, he's limited about 2 or 3 different types.
Thanks.
Dan?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for our attorney over here, Mr. Kreiser. Now, you're familiar with Cokato Town and Country Club?
Yes.
So, because that's through the county, what type of license do they have?
If you're telling me it's a town and country club, it would be underneath probably the fraternal organization exemption, which then allows a bar.
Oh, so that would be different than what they would be
Yes.
requesting?
Yes.
Okay.
There's always an exception.
Yep, we have a lot of golf courses that are fraternal organizations in the county.
Okay.
It is paternal, I know that.
Is there anything else you want to add yet? Anything else here? Otherwise, I'll open it up to the public. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment? Anyone from the public? I see there's nobody from the public, so if you want to step back up and we will take it from here.
Mr. Chair,
Ken?
I have a question of the applicants. Now, Peterson's owned this before, and you purchased it, 8
This is going to be our 10th season, so we purchased
season.
it. Yep,
Well,
10th season. Yeah, we
congratulations.
made it 10 years.
All right,
Yeah.
well.
We never thought we would.
What's your typical days of operation, hours, seasons, months? You know,
Yeah.
what's going on out there?
Yep. So we generally open toward the end of August. I think we've tentatively set our date this year for August 24th. And then we're generally open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we're open 4 days a week. And then we generally close the Sunday before Halloween. Or, you know, if Halloween was on a Saturday or something, we might stay open that next Sunday, but generally right around Halloween. So our season's generally 10 weeks. We're generally open about 40 days. And so last season, my wife counted them up, we were open 39 days, is the extent that we were open.
Seasonal business.
We're very seasonal, yep, exactly.
What do you do in the off season? I suppose you maintain the trees and.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There's people think we just sip apple cider in the off season and eat apple pie, but no, there's a work year round.
Yeah, I get you.
Pruning the apple trees. Right now, we're trying to grow the pumpkins, grow the
I believe it.
apples, weed control. Every year, I think I'm going to win the battle against the weeds, but the weeds.
Well, we've been there on a
Yeah.
smaller scale. Yeah. So we kind of get that operation. So basically, other than the addition of the request for liquor, or whatever extent that might be, this is more or less housekeeping, just to bring this guy, or these applicants up to code in terms of, okay, very well. Well then, I guess I'd be prepared to kind of throw a motion together.
Well, do you want?
Well, I do have a question. So you close before Halloween. Have you ever had any, I mean, depending upon the type of fall we get, do you just see a drop in visitorship to the point where you don't want to open past that? Because
Yeah.
we're likely going to be setting those seasonal dates. So I don't want to shortchange you on dates if there's a possibility of going a little further, depending upon usership and those types of things. We're not trying to stomp on your business, but if we set a condition, then we have to follow it. So I want to make sure that time frame is fairly firm. If you want it a little later, then we should have that discussion with the commission on start dates, end dates. Same thing with days and hour of operations. Your submittal said Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If you're good with that, then we'll set it. If you want to change it, you have to come back. So that's why I'm asking these questions, to make sure we're setting the conditions that are workable for you and workable for the commission.
Yeah.
I guess my question to you would be, would November 10th? I used to be in the business.
Okay.
You need to be open Halloween Day, because you'd be amazed at how many dads forget to buy pumpkins.
Yeah.
for kids.
Right.
Been there, done it. I've been in your shoes. I've stood on that side of the podium.
Yeah, I
No
think-
longer in it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I would say, from being in it November 10th,
I think we'd appreciate the flexibility if we have leftover, produce and then for an outlet to sell it.
and then even for a start time, I mean, what is the earliest you could potentially start? I mean, State Fair apples come in the end of August.
Yeah, there's a new one called First Kiss that the U of M came out with a couple of years ago, and that ripens about mid-August. But with that said, like, it's so hot and people just aren't ready for apple orchards, but, the U of M is trying to get that mindset that, oh, maybe there's some apples ready that are good. So maybe mid-August, and just in case that would ever come to fruition. But right now, like, we actually debate if we should open August 24th, because it's so quiet then, because people are going to their cabins still, and it's just not fall weather. It's hot, and they're not thinking apples yet. But maybe, if this new U of M apple takes off and people start thinking about fall a little earlier, might be helpful to have a little flexibility. My wife would probably be really thankful if you lock us down the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because I keep wanting to go Tuesday, Wednesday too. But so we're flexible on that. I think she would actually appreciate Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sundays.
Mr. Chair, to follow up on the liquor discussion, if I could interject. Just looking at the statute here again, we are limited to only being able to give a on-sale liquor license to a hotel, restaurant, bowling center, or clubs. which of those are you going to qualify for?
You know, we worked through that with the state, because we have a food truck, and so they were gonna let us sell it out of the food truck. Do you remember what the discussion was around that?
They said if it was okay with the county, so we went back with the county,
Or the township?
the township.
But the township doesn't license you.
Right, we aren't licensed, you know,
We're
we're in the
working on the
process, we
license.
never was finalized for approval, so we're just going through the process.
I just want to make sure what we approve here,
Yep,
if we approve something, actually works for what you need.
okay, well, when we went through the state, we have standing food trucks, and we asked to go through there, because they are licensed through the Department of Health.
Okay, so you're looking at the restaurant provision then?
Correct.
Correct?
Yes.
Because when I'm looking at the site plan, I see nothing up here that says restaurant.
Yes, thank you.
Nothing up here that says food being served anywhere up here on the screen right now.
It's part of their narrative, and it is on another site plan that we do have where they have a food truck area.
I just want to be,
Where would you park them? Probably would be a good thing to put on there, is that what you're saying?
I just don't want to make an approval and then have you have to come
Sure.
back here after
Okay.
you get denied.
Yeah, we do have food trucks, right
Area
there. It's
23.
23 on the map.
Sorry, it's hard to see that.
Apex one.
Right here.
Yep, right there. We have two food trucks that are licensed through the Department of Health. They come out about every year and inspect those and make sure they're up to code and that sort of thing. And we serve food out of those trucks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else, Barry, that you have?
Well, just for, with the, to follow up on that season of operation, just for ease, I would give it August 1st to November 30th. That way, you know, they certainly don't have to be open. This is not saying you have to be open then. It's just saying you can't open any earlier than this date, and you can't be open later than this date. So that gives you the flexibility within those timeframes. If you say if some things kick off or you get the proper fall and your usership is remain, you know, to your satisfaction into November, it gives you that little bit of leeway to remain open without coming to us, because we're getting November days that are in the 60s and sunny, and
Sure.
people want to be out.
Mr. Chair, I have a comment. I think one of the things that comes to mind is if we extend the hours and the timeframe, and the people that are doing the licensing for the liquor, will that increase the cost for the liquor license and all the things that are involved with insurance and so on? Will we be adding to your burden?
I appreciate that thought. My understanding is we have to buy the insurance the whole year. Like, they won't sell it to us for 2 months
Okay.
or 2 months.
So then you're okay?
So yeah, we already have to buy it for the whole year
Okay,
anyway,
okay,
so.
well, that's good
But I
to
do
know.
appreciate the thinking.
Yeah, okay.
Good question.
And I guess for us up here, I mean, either November 15th or even to November 30th to give them the opportunity to,
I'm fine with August 1st to November 30th, just that
Just-
way
Yeah.
it's
just so they
covered.
have that ability to be open
That's the way I.
with apples, you know,
I appreciate
anything like that. If it's a late year and things run late, you can be
Right.
open, but if the apples aren't ready and it's a late year and you've got to make a push towards the end. So, is there any other concerns that we need to discuss for you, Barry?
And you'll stick with the time that you've been going now, like daily, you said 10 to 6?
Yeah, yep. We like to get done before dark, you know, like, get people home safely and out of the parking lot and stuff before dark. So 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. is what we plan to do, yeah. And if we go any longer, like, our workers want to go home too, so, and we want to go home.
Mr.
No, I think we've
Mr.
covered it.
Ken?
Sir, ma'am, speaking of parking, in your experience over the last 10 years or so, there's been adequate parking because there's no parking allowed on township roads. Has that been enforced? Do you know of?
Yeah, no, we've really been cognizant of that and made a lot of efforts. Our neighbors are combining that time of year. Gene Gabralsik lives across the highway from us, and he drives his combine down that county road. And if we have cars parked down there, he's just gonna run them over, so.
Right, they don't.
So,
Yeah, Ahern, I guess you pronounce it.
Yeah, Ahern.
is a township road. That's, no parking's allowed there. So you have adequate off
Correct,
or
yeah,
on-site parking.
correct.
It's been good so far. Okay,
Yep, knock on wood.
thank you.
Thank you.
Another question for me, Barry, would be, within the motion, they're asking for 4 days. Do we have to limit that? Or can we leave that open, that they can be open 7 days a week or 6 days a week? Do we want to be specifying that into a motion?
As with other ones that we have done, we've generally specified days and hours of operation.
Okay.
And on a seasonal, we do months, days, and hours of operation. That's typically what I see. I'm not saying that you can't do that. It's just, we generally do condition it.
Okay. And other than that, for the board, I guess I would like to see the motion to have, be open at least 5 days a week at whatever choice, Monday, Tuesday off. I mean, if we have to specify days. I know you're only open 4, but I don't want you coming back here saying, hey, we want to open up one more day, and then you got to go through all of this again.
I'd like to see him, Mr. Chair, remain happily married, too.
Right, I appreciate that. Yeah.
So would it be Monday or Wednesday that you would want to include in that?
Say Wednesday.
I would say
Most places
Wednesday.
are
Let's ask
closed
them.
Monday.
I think it's,
Yeah,
But
I would
it's
say
up to you.
Wednesday also. And that just reminded me of one exception to our little rule here is we're typically open Labor Day Monday because it's a holiday and parents have off at work and so they generally come out to the orchard. So that's the only Monday we're ever open is Labor Day Monday. So I don't know if we could include that one also, but.
What about the Wednesday prior to MEA?
We're generally not open, but we get a ton of calls like, "Why aren't you open?"
Oh, okay. That's a big
So
day.
if that is one day that we should probably be open, but thank you. Yeah, my wife's like, no, we don't. But yeah, no, that would be helpful. And the other thing is, it seems like our field trips have been increasing in popularity, and we love our field trips. We got some really good educational staff that do our field trips for us. We're only open Thursday and Friday, and so those 2 days are really kind of getting booked up with field trips. And so, it might be helpful to have a Wednesday or something so we could book some field trips those days.
No Tuesday? I mean,
All right.
I want to make sure we do this right, so you're not back here in 2 years saying, oh, I've got multiple schools, we need one more day.
they don't have to be open, but can be.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You don't
Okay.
have to. I just want to make sure
Yeah,
we do this
I
properly.
appreciate that. Yeah.
The only question would be, as of right now, the known impact in the area is primarily Thursday through Sunday. You add 2 more days, without the ability for that to flesh itself out.
Okay.
So there again, it's not up to me, but that's something that did pop into my head is that if you just open it up over something that in this case is already running with a kind of a known impact, how much more impact would 2 days have? I don't know. Would it be enough impact to affect a nearby resident that now we get complaints because this was just supposed to be this and now it's all of this? And there's no way for me as the administrator to bring this back to you because they're following their conditions. I can't enforce a condition if they're following it. I can't say it's a problem if they're following the conditions that were set. So that's the only other thing to keep in mind. The more you open it up is, okay, now we're extending that impact beyond what has been in the case of an existing thing, normal.
Okay.
Wouldn't it be better
Mr.
to
Chair?
do
Let
Wednesday?
me go this way. Sorry. Go ahead, Janice.
I have mixed feelings about extending the things. It says here that the township approves the request because we approve the orchard as it exists now and the addition of alcohol sales. They had applied for, I would assume, the days that we began speaking about that the township was approving, right?
Yeah, I mean, that didn't come up, I guess, at
Yeah,
the
it didn't
township
come up.
meeting in terms of the days of our operation.
It didn't come up.
Correct.
So this is kind of an added added new thing. They were just thinking of how it existed in the past. And I guess I'm a little concerned too that as the planning commission, I don't know that it's our job to tell people how to run their business. And this is the suggestions that we're making only. And
Yeah.
I'd like that to be perfectly clear that this is Dan's opinion and as long as you know that and are
Yeah, no, yeah,
agreeable to that.
yeah, we appreciate that. No, we appreciate the input. That's helpful.
But I personally
option.
think that your 4 days allows you some time to take care of your other things that you've got going, because that's a big job that you've got going there too, so.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that, in these list of potential conditions that I have drafted would include something that the township didn't ask for, but I think based on the scenario that we're dealing with, is a township review in 1 year with further review at an interval as requested by the township. And so that is the one spot that if, in the first year, if it expanded quite a bit, there is that ability through the township review process to get another hearing scheduled on it. But I still think that's something to be careful of, because in the first, if they don't do it in the first year, but do it in year 5, well, the township said, well, we don't want to review it again, now what? Now the township is gonna request a review, and we have to go about it that way, which is not as enjoyable isn't the right word, but it's more adversarial.
At the very least, I think, so that they're not out of compliance, we need to add the one holiday Monday.
Yep, Labor Day.
That needs to be added in, at the very least. Is there any other?
So are we then Thursday through Sunday with the addition of Labor Day Monday?
We don't have a motion yet, but that's the discussion.
I'd like to add, I
I'm in
think
favor of Wednesday.
the Wednesday.
Wednesday, okay. That's what I had written down, but I just wanted to make sure that.
Yep. So if the commission so desires, I can read off kind of what I have.
Okay.
Well, what I'll go with first is, there was reference in the packet to a lease agreement for parking. So our ordinance does require that any parking that's gonna be leased, actually, that's done through a recorded document with the county recorder, so there will be a condition added in for that. So what I have is, if the commission so desires, is to make a motion to approve an interim use permit for commercial agricultural tourism for Fall Harvest Orchard to include alcohol sales and a new commercial slide in accord with the business plan noted as Exhibit A and narrative Exhibit B, with description held on file and the discussion with the following conditions. Operations shall be seasonal in nature and are limited to the months of August, or limited to August 1st through November 30th. Days and hours of operations are limited to Wednesday through Sunday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. plus Labor Day Monday. In addition to indoor handicap bathrooms noted in the plan, portable toilets must be provided for the maximum number of daily guests expected in accord with the letter dated February 2nd, 2023 from the Wright County Environmental Health Supervisor. Parking on public highways, streets, and roads is prohibited. A long-term parking lease shall be recorded with the Wright County Recorder's Office prior to allowing the overflow parking shown in the narrative as Appendix 3. Township review in 1 year with subsequent reviews scheduled at an interval as deemed appropriate by the township. Any change in use or expansion requires an amended interim use permit hearing. This permit shall expire upon transfer of property, termination of any lease agreements, or change in business ownership or operations.
I'll make a motion to what he just read.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion here? There's no other discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Appreciate it.
One more hurdle jumped.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks.
All right, number 5 is Donovan DeMarais.
Good evening.
Barry, when you are ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This request is for a land alteration to construct a private boat launch on Black Lake in Maple Lake Township. This development was brought to the commission in 2023 as an unplatted subdivision. It was rezoned and approved as that subdivision. The proposed access would be on an easement that would go through that blue property that sticks up to the north along the west property line, east property line, and then towards the lake along the north property line of the other parcel south of it to the lakeshore, kind of similar to that area where you can see a kind of a, I don't know what to call that, homemade little boat launches right there. We do have drawn plans, professionally drawn plans by the applicant for that. Looking at in the neighborhood of, and I know I would have it in here someplace. Thought I had it's on here. I had the volumes in here, now they completely missed me. 338 cubic yards of total cut, 48 yards of gravel, ramp excavation of 5 cubic yards, with clear rock at another 5 cubic yards. And this would be done through an easement with easement rights granted to the property owners of the lots that were created through the development process.
Okay.
So that's a map of the easement.
Okay, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, a pretty accurate summary. This was a concept that was mentioned to all the parties that had purchased their lots as a part of the 9-lot subdivision community we created here. In addition to those 9, Mr. Robinson here, which is at the elbow of that easement, is also included as one of the private residents that will have access to that private launch. This site is the site of the former public boat launch. So as it sits presently, Black Lake has no public launch, but all until I believe 86, right where we're putting this is basically where we're reenacting or reinstating a private launch where it once was the public launch. And on this image here, it goes right at the corner of the gravel road on 72nd, and then the old road went straight down and swung into that launch there. So it was vacated for whatever reason, and now we're just making it private. The improvements will only be, there'll be a gate up at 72nd, so like a field approach, which we've already talked to the township about that, and they were fine with it, improved it. And then it'll stay natural all the way down until we get in closer to the, to kind of get closer to the lake. And one of the prior exhibits showed where we would start to turn a gravel turnaround. Yeah, where it's kind of shaded gray there, where you'll come in, swing out. The boats and trailers won't stay parked there. There'll be a maintenance agreement between the 10 residents that just states that it's really for more seasonal dropping and putting the boats in than it is for like daily regular use. So it's very similar to one we did back in 2021 on Birch Lake that we came and did, and that one turned out fabulous. And this one's actually gonna have far less impact than that one did. In fact, the DNR on the prior one on Birch Lake required a site visit. And when James Bedell, head of the DNR for this region, looked at it, he's like, everything straightforward here, I'm not even gonna make a visit on it. And we have all requisite approvals from the Army Corps of Engineers, the DNR, and then Wright County Soil and Water.
And the township, all those are in your packet.
Yep.
Mr. Chair.
Ken?
Mr. DeMarais, you said there will be no parking down there, it's just like a seasonal drop-off. Then I presume that there'll be anchorage of some sort, a dock or something for these folks to drop off their boat and then tie up to?
No, I mean, we don't intend to put a dock in. We didn't put a dock on the Birch Lake one either. It's more intended for some of the residents will have lake lots on the lake, so they'll be able to put their boat in and go to their docks.
Okay.
And then for the ones that are off the water, it's more like day use, go down there, fish, or drop a jet ski in the water, and someone would just stay down there with the boat. They would go back and park their vehicle and trailer at their houses, which are within walking distance, and then they'd come back down to the boat launch.
Okay, so this is for the benefit of those who are purchasing lots along, was it Armitage?
It's
North-south
along
road?
Ames, which runs
Ames.
north and south, and then it's 72nd, then swings northeast and turns into Aladdin.
So it's all of those above 72nd?
So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 above 72nd,
Mm-hmm.
and then there is 5 on the south.
South is that,
Along Ames.
Ames.
So along 2 on 72nd, and then there's 3 that come access off of
Okay,
Ames.
so basically there will be somebody parking, some individuals parking down there if they're just going down for the day with their trailer,
No,
boat, and car?
the maintenance agreement will specify that they're not allowed to park there.
Okay. Thank you.
When you did the Birch Lake one, was that also a grass drive?
Yes, sir.
And that works pretty good, huh?
It has, you can talk to those residents. I know a few of them, but it's not an everyday driver, I mean, it's literally, it's there. It's really kind of more the sizzle than the steak. I mean, it's not getting, someone's dropping a boat in every single day, someone's coming and going.
Yeah.
In reality, they get a lot less use than they would like a public landing, right?
Yeah.
It's more to have the opportunity to get to the water if they need to, whereas it's even tough for the ones that are on the lake that have frontage but have no way besides for going through the infrastructure, their own lot, and sometimes it's steep and stuff. This is a very flat, gradual grade to get to the
Yeah, I
water.
remember that from the site visit, the way you're coming off 72nd.
Yeah.
It'd be too steep. Okay,
I
thank
do,
you.
I do know the Birch Lake one. The only issue I've seen is a truck towing a pontoon got stuck on the road.
Oh, did they?
It was there for a week and a half.
Well, someone needed a 101 class there before they entered then.
Looks like they slid off the little bit of improvement there, and
Yeah.
so that's where it's at.
I remember my
I
first
turkey
beer.
hunt out in that area, so I drove by it for a week and a half.
Yeah. I remember my first beer.
Janice?
Yes, my son and his family have joined, or their neighborhood is involved in a similar thing. And it's part of their deed on their property that they have access to this particular area, like you're proposing here on this plan. And the only difference is that they have docks down at the landing, and everybody that lives in the area walks to their boat dock and so on. Is the 10 people that you're talking about, I think you said there were 10? Are they legal owners of this? Do they have a share in ownership of this, or how does this work?
Great question. They don't have a share in ownership. They all are there. What we'll do is we'll have the title company, Central Land Title, will update their title that states this easement is attached to their property. And then we will also record the maintenance agreement that specifies that it's limited just to those 10 properties, no extended family. They have to list what people live in the homes and their vehicles. And then that there's no day parking. And then they amongst themselves get to deal with like just mowing that stretch. Usually the parties that the easement goes over, those two will still mow up into their lines.
Okay.
But yeah, it is definitely an asset and a value add to the property values.
Yeah, okay. And they're obligated then to pitch in and help with the maintenance and so on?
They are, as long as they sign the maintenance agreement. If they choose not to participate in the maintenance agreement, then they will not get granted access to the lake via that easement.
Okay.
So in this particular case, there's the 7 lots with the development, there's the 2 deed restriction lots on the corner. Where's the 10th?
So it's Mr. Robinson's home, which is
On the L.
right in the L, yeah. On the south side of 72nd, over one way west, right there.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. DeMarais, now this is simply an easement. Now the burdened property will be paying all the property taxes.
Yes, correct. The 2 properties will pay their property taxes as normal.
Okay, very well. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I will open it up to the public if you want to just have a seat here. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this matter? If you want to come up here and give your name, please, and try to keep it to 4 minutes.
My name is Gail Isaac, and I live on Black Lake and have been there for about 35 years. And one of the things I'd like to say is that if people had understood, I think, what this was about tonight that got a notice, I think there would have been a lot more people here, because everybody that I've talked to in the neighborhood is not happy that all the people that are not on the lake they're proposing to grant them access to this. I know somebody on the northeast side of the lake that didn't even get a notice at all, and he's very concerned but couldn't be here tonight. So I just wanted to make that comment. There was nothing about this last year when all this development was brought up at all, that these people would all have access to a very small DNR designated natural environmental lake that's very shallow. It's, I know that 7 feet. Yeah, 7 feet is about the average there. And it's often covered in algae bloom, and it's just a wildlife sanctuary for the loons and the eagles and the trumpeter swans and the ospreys that fish there and such. And people are, there's just, it doesn't make any sense to have another 7 lots of residences or whatever to be able to access this lake, I don't think, when it's really not a recreational lake at all and was never intended to be. I think if the landing was for the 3 owners that have lakeshore access, I think that would be very acceptable. I think that's all it should be limited to, for a number of reasons. I talked to Mr. Bedell too, who signed the hydrologist who signed the permit, and he told me that he did not realize that only 3 of the lots were on the lake when he signed that. So that was something that was kind of discouraging to me to hear. The Birch Lake comparison that they're talking about, all 7 of those lots were on the lake. There weren't any lots that were off the lake like this is. You're talking people who do not have a vested interest in caring about the lake like we do that are on it. Many of us have been on it for 35 plus years, and it's just very concerning to me. The thought of a jet ski on our little lake just makes me cringe. And you go to the back of the lake and you can't be within, I think it's 150 feet of the lakeshore with a jet ski. Well, the only thing you could really do is to go around the little deep part in the circle of the, you know, by the curve of 72nd and Aladdin there. I would be very concerned about control of they talked about putting a gate up, and I know there was a gate on the Birch Lake one, but who's gonna control that access? I mean, are they gonna be able to just give a key? Who's gonna monitor it, right? I mean, I'm very concerned about that. It's like they could just give their key to somebody else or badge or code or whatever and let them, you know, let anybody on. Nobody's gonna be monitoring that, or I don't know who would. That would be another question. What else was I gonna, oh, that's just more opportunity too for AIS to be introduced, the aquatic invasive species down to the lake. And the wake impact is something that's concerning to me too, if there would be anybody that would be bringing in a boat that's bigger than a little canoe or a fishing boat. And I'm all for canoes or fishing boats out there and kids being able to experience an environmental lake, but I just really don't think it's fair that the 7 other people that aren't on the lake and aren't paying for lake property and aren't paying for property taxes and such are, you know, would have the right to go on the lake anytime. That's not why we bought out there, and I don't think that's fair to the rest of us, and I think there's a lot of other people that would agree if they had known more about what this was going to be tonight. So anyway, so I think that's probably about it. I don't know if that was 4 minutes or not, but.
Mr. Chair, I have a question of the applicant.
Ma'am? Yeah.
Hi. I have a question, ma'am. Now, you've lived there for 35 years, have you? Do you recall when the DNR access was abandoned?
I do not ever know that that was a public access whatsoever. That's absolutely news to me. Since I've been there, that has never been a public access. I know
I
the
see.
Robinsons, used to have a little platform down there, but that's since I've lived there. And I've been in the area longer than the 36 years I've lived there.
Right, now, man, the Robinsons lived on that property, or is he the guy that lives up on 70?
It's on 72nd. They
Okay.
don't have lake access there.
Okay,
So, but I know they used to use it. It was in the Robinson family, obviously,
all right.
that whole area was.
Has there been any discovery of AIS in your lake?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
No, there's hardly ever anybody out there at all. It's just wonderful. We hear loons and,
Right.
the osprey fish down there, and it's just a wonderful environmental lake.
Sure.
It's precious to all of us.
Typically, what kind of watercraft do you see out there?
Basically, just there's duck hunters in the fall, and that's it.
How do the duck hunters get to the lake unless they maybe come through some other property?
Yeah, I know that there's other places over on the south side of the lake over there that maybe somebody is letting duck hunters. That's usually the only boating that I see at all, or, during the year.
Any fish in that lake?
I think so. I know there had been some ice fishing years ago that fished a lot of them out, but I think there's some fish in the deep part that's sometimes there's enough algae bloom on the whole lake that's the only part that's open. so.
Sure. Good, thank you.
Right, thank you. Anyone else that would like to comment? Gentleman there, if you want to come up and give your name, please.
Barry, I have a PowerPoint I'd like to put up.
Yep.
My name's Jonathan Bondis. I live at 7336 Aladdin Avenue on the peninsula in the middle there. I grew up here on this lake, waiting on the PowerPoint. Next slide. Okay, so my main concerns are around the ecology of the lake, limiting access to this boat ramp, which you guys already mentioned a gate, but of course we don't know, are people going to be handing out their keys? Or are they going to copy them? I mean, I've already had issues with people granting access to the lake to people that aren't supposed to be having access. And people trespassing on my property to get out into the lake. I mean, it's already a problem. And I mean, it's going to amplify tenfold if we put in an access. Continue on. The lake's not natural. It has trumpeters, it's natural. That's an error. It has trumpeters, eagles, nesting loons. Eagles nest at the lake's edge. Recreational use will significantly disrupt this wildlife refuge. Continue. As I mentioned, trespass is already an issue. As you can see from the satellite map, the house won't even be able to see the proposed boat launch, so they won't know if people are trespassing on their property. At minimum, there should be a locked gate with high security keys that can't be easily duplicated. Continue. The median depth of the lake is around 7 feet. There's significant underwater vegetation. We used to have an old pontoon that I took out on the lake, and I wouldn't want to take anything much nicer than that because it will completely foul up motors. I mean, here, continue, and there's an image of the algae bloom. Next slide. So you can see what the lake looks like when there's algae blooms. That's pretty normal. It gets covered with these algae blooms. The cattail mats break off and float around, blocking off portions. I mean, it's not gonna be super useful for recreational use. Continue. So in conclusion, the ecology of the lake is going to be impacted significantly. Access to the boat ramp and limiting access is a concern. The practicality of it might be limited. And also speaking to what Gail was saying about that a lot of us didn't get proper notice. I didn't even know that we were going to be having 10 people getting access to this. I only saw the thing about these properties that were on the lake getting access and easement through it. There was nothing in there about 10 properties getting access in that notice. And of course, I went on the site and found out after Gail notified me, but that was only 2 days before this meeting. So I really don't feel like we got proper notice on this, and I really feel like this should be continued. So that's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for him? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to, with the comments that we had so far, I would just like to reiterate what the request is for. So the request here is for the land alteration portion of this. The easement, they can establish without coming to this board or getting any approval from the county at all. So they can grant access to this to as many property owners as they want without actually getting any approvals from us. We don't have any say over private easements over individual property. Our request is here strictly for the land alteration and the impact of the land alteration on the property and on the lake. So just so it's clear, the easement and their ability or desire to grant access to other people is not for the commission, although it is a factor because they're doing this for the multiples. If the commission were to deny the land alteration, that doesn't mean they're not going to establish the easement and people won't just use an unimproved access.
And I was going to make that a point that we're strictly looking here at a land alteration of 300 yards and putting in a little bit of a turnaround. I mean, if we don't grant that, like Barry said, they can still use it. It can still be established. They're just not going to have a convenient place to.
I see what you're getting at.
There, and they've gone through all the permitting process through the DNR and have all of that for the bowl launch and that, which we're not dealing with here. We're strictly dealing with the land alteration.
Okay, my concern is mostly about the physical security but yes, I get what you're saying.
So whatever we do here, we're not allowing more people or whatever, that's already been established. We're just looking at a land alteration of anything over 50 cubic yards, there has to come before us for a conditional use permit. And they're looking at, according to the drawings, 300 some yards of dirt to be moved around. And that's all that this commission is doing tonight. We are not allowing more people on your lake. We're not involved with that. We're just involved with the removal or addition of some dirt.
Okay, thank you.
If that helps you clarify what's going on.
Yes.
All right?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Janice?
I have a question. Who actually owns this property then? This easement? Who's the owner of this strip that leads from the road to the lake?
The easement itself has not been recorded. We were waiting to record it until we had the land alteration approved. So the easement will overlay the two property owners, which is the long rectangular one and the small square one there.
And who will be the new landowner of it then?
There's not a new landowner. An easement is just, it overlaid on top of the land. So the fee owner, deeded owner, remains the owner even of that 20-foot strip of access.
And do they know? I mean, are they aware?
They've signed the application. They're 100%.
Okay, they signed the application, so they're aware then that their neighbors are probably going to be a little concerned about the number of people that are non-lake owners will be having access to this property.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
And I'll keep it really thin. The DNR website, Lake Finder, has the lake depth at 52 feet. They don't give a median average, so it's 52 feet directly out from where that image is, directly in front of where the boat landing is. As for recreational, what the requirements are of the lake is governed not by the landowners or who's using it, it's governed by the DNR, is whether it's recreational, whether it's a natural lake. So people can be going on here with kayaks. People can be going here with paddle boards. People can be going down there to just float and swim. It's just a means for them to get to the property legally. So that's what I had there.
Is there anyone else that would like, if you want to sit down again, is there anyone else that would like to comment on this matter? Gal there in the back, please come forward and give your name for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Tracy Provo, and I own the property that is right next to the lake. That's where I grew up. That's where my parents lived their whole life. So, to get back to the access, there was never an access to that lake. My dad owned all of it, and then he sold it. I don't know, probably, he sold it to Robinsons, who lived actually across 72nd Street. So, and Dick is his son that lives up on top here for Robinsons. But his parents lived directly across from where I live, across 72nd Street. And they milk cows, and that's where the pasture was. So my dad sold them that whole lot, because my dad didn't want that much acres. So the cattle would actually cross 72nd and go down to the lake and up to the pasture. So that access that was there was always Robinson's access. It wasn't a public access. So if anybody wanted to go fishing or whatever, they had to ask Robinson's permission. So that's kind of a clarification of that. So there was never a public access. And then another thing about, well, I guess, was it gonna be like just a grass going down there access? So no gravel or nothing going down to the lake? I'm not sure.
What we're being told is it's a grass driveway going down and down by the lake. In our plans, there's about 300 yards of material down here on this map is where the material is going to be, and gravel put in, and then a ramp going down into the lake on what we see in the plan. And that's what has been
Okay,
they're
yeah.
asking for.
Well, because it was my, daughter's grandma and grandpa that lived there, so she decided one night she was gonna go down to the lake, her and her friends with their car. And it's a slope going down there, and got stuck down there, couldn't get back up. So she ended up calling my son, and he had to come down and pull her out. So I just don't know how you're gonna get things down there and pull it back up on grass when she was just down there with the car. So, I don't know.
Yeah. It's an easement, and this board has nothing to do with the easement portion. So, yeah, you're correct. It could be challenging.
I don't know. They bought knowing they were buying by a swamp, a marsh. I don't know. Where does this end? Pretty soon they're gonna want tar roads, hiking paths. I mean, we allowed them to build, you allowed them to build, put the lots in. I think that should be efficient. They could see what they were buying when they bought.
Yep.
You can't take a country lake and make it Lake Minnetonka. I've lived there my whole life. Nobody's ever been down there in jet ski. Nobody. It's not a lake for that.
There may be only one. Who the first one that tries it might learn it's not a good idea.
Yeah. And what about all the wildlife?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else that would like to comment? Can you try to make it brief? I'll give you another moment, but try to make it brief.
One more brief point here that when you know.
Okay, you gotta come up so we get you on recording, and please give your name again.
Jonathan Bondus
Yep.
again. I just wanted to make one more point that when he put when he said that the lake's depth, the DNR has it at 52 feet, that's the deepest point. I mean, it's basically just a hole that goes down 52 feet. If you look at the depth maps, the average, the vast majority of the lake's around 6 or 7 feet.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make that point that it seemed a bit disingenuous.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else that would like to comment? If there's nobody else that would like to comment, we'll bring it back up here. Is there any concerns from the board? How does the board?
Mr. Chair,
Ken?
And I know you pointed out, and other peoples have pointed out several times that this is a land alteration request only. Okay. Just last month, we had a land request alteration out in Lake Sylvia, I believe it was. Okay, so when it comes, these land alteration permits or requests come to us, I don't think we necessarily have to leave it at that doorstep of just a land alteration request. Because in every previous request, we've always had a plan. What are they gonna do? The one last week, they were going to redo some retaining walls and have a path down to the lake, and we're quizzing them about this and that, which, if you look purely at a land alteration request, why are we even asking those questions? So in this case, I'm trying to justify my questions to one of the local residents about what type of watercraft she sees on a lake, whether they have AIS, and about it. Asked her if it was ever a public access, and she said no. But I think we have to look at this as a boat ramp, a boat launch. That's what the intent is here, not just land alteration. We can't stop at just looking, okay, 50 yards, more than 50 yards, okay. We have to look beyond that and say, well, why? Just like we have in all the other cases. And this is gonna be a boat ramp. And frankly, I'm not real crazy about it, where it's at. Particularly if those other folks that are joining in on this, they're not even part of the plat, of this plat. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. DeMarais. It seems to me this lot was created in those lots. A gentleman came before us from Maple Lake. I forget what his name is. It's on that really steep hill, steepest hill in Wright County, and everybody stays away from it. Am I talking the right one here now? Okay. It seems to me a few of those people had access directly to Black Lake. Fine. But in this case, we know it's going to be a boat ramp, even though it's only a land alteration request. We know it's going to be a boat ramp, and compounding that these aren't even going to be people that live on the lake. So that's where I'm coming from on this. I'm not real crazy about it.
Okay.
May I comment on that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that gets into a gray area of where the scope starts and stops in terms of any board evaluating whether it's a land alteration permit or any other permit. Where's the purview start and stop? And I could have not said at all that there is going to be rights to 10 people. The application didn't require that I said that the plan is for 10 people. The requirements asked for me to go through all the requisite steps of jurisdictional approval, which I've done. Said to provide an exhibit showing construction plans, which I've done. I've done everything I've been asked, and in fact, I've given more information, which I didn't have to do. I was just trying to convey what the intent was. So it really could be for the 3 people that are only on the lake, and they can privately go grant it to 50 people if they want. Again, that's why you're not here to limit the actual use of the easement, because we're not here about the easement. We're here about the land use, the land alteration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, concerns?
And it looks like the
Jeannie?
township approved when you went to talk to them about the same plan.
Correct.
They were in your, I saw it was unanimous.
Correct.
I'm prepared to make a motion to approve the request for the creation of boat access according to the plan submitted with the following conditions. The access is to not be used for general public and is only to be used for the specified residents within the development. The boat launch shall comply with all DNR regulations. Erosion control measures must be taken for the creation of the turnaround and driveway.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Greg, do you have something?
I do, actually, on this one, and it's mainly just because I want to put it on the record, because this is interesting, I mean, just from a legal perspective. Every year I get something where we get old easements like this that show up where someone's trying to extinguish it underneath the Minnesota Marketable Title Act. Every year in the county I get one. I've litigated it before to the Minnesota Supreme Court, and here is the first time we're actually creating an issue that's going to be litigated probably in 45 years when someone tries to extinguish this easement. So I just want to put that out there, that this easement will probably become a part of litigation with the Minnesota Marketable Title Act in 40 years, because someone's going to want to not have this boat launch and people driving through their backyard. So it's not an issue for us to decide here. It's just, I just want my comment noted, so when someone looks at it in 40 years, they go, what happened? It's there.
Yeah. And I also want to say, this board isn't creating the easement.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
We're not, but
So that's on record
Yeah,
also.
it
We are
is.
not creating this easement.
we are not. We have no part of this, but somehow the county will get sued.
Yes.
And-
We always do.
And one quick comment on the motion, it should reference approval for a land alteration, not boat access.
Oh, okay.
So noted.
So noted.
I would like to make a comment.
Janice, yes.
Well, I live on a river, and I have 30 acres there, and I'm allowed to have a couple more houses there because of the acres that I own. And if I would decide to have to grant easements to 3 other people besides myself access to the river, then by using this portion of the ordinance that we're doing now, I could say, well, I'm going to make a land alteration from my driveway, which is on the road, but I'm going to give an easement all the way down to the river. And here at the south end of at the west side of my property, one in the middle and one on the east side of the property, all of a sudden, I've given access to another person, and another person. So I've got 6 people accessing the river, okay? But they say, well, I want to have just 10 of my neighbors join in so that they have access to the river. Are you telling me that I can do that as long as I consider it a land alteration? I don't understand that, how that can be.
No, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Greg.
And for Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
No, what we're saying is you can give an easement to anyone you want to go across your property.
Yes.
That has no county regulation involved
Yes.
in it. That's a private matter between private citizens.
But I can go to the county and legally apply for houses to be there, and they'll deny that, even though could I just say then that it's a land alteration, that I want to make another lot?
Mr. Chair, Member Thompson, you could do a land alteration up to the permitted limits, and once you exceed those permitted limits and thresholds for cubic yardage, you would then have to apply for a conditional use permit.
Okay, and so what are the limits for the easement on this property?
Given that it's in shoreland, I believe it's 50 cubic yards.
50 cubic yards?
In shoreland,
Shoreland, it's 50 cubic yards.
anything over 50 cubic yards requires a conditional use permit.
They're asking for an excess of
So you
300.
you have no problem with this from a legal standpoint?
From a legal standpoint, I see no inability to defend this if it was appealed.
Unless it was appealed?
I see no inability to defend it.
Okay, thank you.
Ken?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Kreiser, is an easement, and this is off the subject slightly, is an easement marketable, indivisible?
Generally, no. I mean, it can be sold, but whoever is the person who holds the easement that, grants them access to it, they can't then give that right away to someone else. Or they can't divide it further. They can only sell it as part of their land.
Okay, thank you. One other question, just a friendly suggestion to the motion maker. Perhaps you should name the development that are the proposed individuals that will be benefiting from this.
It's an unplatted, unnamed development.
Yeah, I don't, well, and it's,
It's that
it's their property, they can have whoever they want on it. Is that correct? Am I right? We have nothing to do with the easement, correct?
Mr. Chair, Member Holland, no, we have nothing to do with the easement.
Right.
This motion has to do with the land
Land
alteration.
alteration.
Read C, C condition.
Well, wait a minute here now. We're talking about an access, though. We're not talking about strictly a land alteration in our motion.
What we are saying is that it is a private access to the lake. It cannot be open to the general public. It will not be posted on the DNR site or any maps, excuse me, as a public boat launch.
Yeah, I would recommend striking out, on condition number 1, everything after public.
So,
This is the exact condition that we took from the other one, which was done in 2021, different administrator. And so I grabbed it and tweaked it a little bit, but I didn't get into that depth of it. Looking at it here, we should strike everything after public on condition number 1. So just this access is not to be used for the general public,
Chairman,
or open to the public may be a better term.
I have a question. So in my brain then, it would just be like if somebody decided to have a shared driveway. Anybody can use it. Whoever they want to use it can use it. And so we have no jurisdiction on who can use a shared driveway, right?
That is correct.
So what we're doing here then is basically saying, go ahead, make your shared driveway and alter the land as needed in that regard, right? Because
I would say as needed, as per the plan.
Right, right. But I mean, as per the plan that we see before us, because we can't say who can use a lake, we can't say who can use somebody's driveway. So we're basically saying, go ahead and alter it to meet the specifications, correct?
That's correct.
In
Not
layman's
a
terms.
boat access.
Hmm?
It's not a boat access then, correct?
Yeah, I mean, they can use it as a boat access, it's
Yeah.
their property. But it's basically, in simple terms in my head, I'm just trying to wrap it around, because I know people who have shared driveways.
But correct me if I'm wrong, council, we are not creating the access.
Right.
I mean, it's in the motion, the way it's somewhat worded, but we are not creating this access. The access has been already created. It's there. We are allowing them to move 300 some yards of dirt because it's required within shoreland, anything over 50 yards. Once I get to 55 with my skid loader, technically, I need a conditional use permit. So I guess in my simple mind, everything's been created. He's done all of his homework. He's gotten the DNR, the Corps of Engineers, everything is done. He's asking us for permission to move 300 yards of dirt.
Should we make it that simple?
The motion says
Wait a minute.
approve the request for creation of a boat access.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, like I say, we took this directly from the Birch Lake one. Reading through it again in light of the conversations that we're having here, I would ask that the current motion be withdrawn, and I can draft one up really quick for you.
Yes.
Okay, motion
I'll
withdraw?
listen. Yep, I'll make.
in a second, okay?
Yes.
To avoid the conversations that we just had, prospective motion would be to approve a land alteration in accord with the plan submitted, drawn by Otto and Associates, project number 23-0116 dated 8/29/23, with the condition that erosion control measures be taken for the creation of the turnaround and driveway, and all DNR regulations and requirements be followed.
I'll accept that and make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion?
Yes, I have a question.
Janice?
So we would be discarding then all of the conditions that are listed here?
No, it was just the new ones
What?
he did. It was just the ones he read.
Yeah. So, but explain that to me again then, because I don't understand what you're doing.
Mr. Chair, Member Thompson, the zoning administrator did not reread condition number 1.
And so we're dropping that.
That was the motion that has currently been moved and seconded.
Okay.
Could you please, Mr. Reinberger, repeat that motion you read?
Is close to repeating as I can. I took it off the cuff. The motion would be to approve a land alteration in accord with the plan submitted, drawn by Otto and Associates, project number 23-0116 dated 8/29/23, with the following conditions. Erosion control measures must be taken for the creation of the turnaround and driveway, and all DNR requirements be complied with.
So you're basically striking out boat launch.
Yes.
You're striking access to the general public, blah, blah.
And keeping number 3.
Right.
So they're just going to be allowed to turn around?
And turning the page back, you're striking everything you wrote there.
Yes.
Will they have access to the lake?
All right. Thank you.
Okay. What, Janice?
But they'll still have access to the lake?
That goes underneath the easement of what's already been created. We are not creating the easement. We are not, that is not part of what
That's
he's
been
here
done.
for. That's been done.
Yes.
It's already been approved
So
by
you're
the
saying
county.
this is not a conditional use permit anymore then?
For a land alteration to move
This is,
dirt.
but this is, so we're completely throwing out that it is a conditional use permit that we're granting
Mr.
now.
Chair, Member Thompson, this is a conditional use permit for a land alteration in excess of 50 cubic yards in the shoreland.
Okay.
Okay.
Just one question of clarification, Mr. Chair. Mr. DeMarie, those easements have been created and recorded.
Created, not recorded yet. We were going to record them subject to approval of the land use alteration.
I see. Well, what do you mean, Mr. Chair, then, when you say the easement's already been created?
It has not been created. My understanding from him. But everything is there and it will be recorded if we give them a land alteration.
Yeah, I understand that, but I understood you to say it's been, the easement's already there.
I misspoke.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't hear the last comment, Dan.
I misspoke.
You misspoke, okay.
So I have a motion on the floor. Do we have any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same way.
No.
I vote no.
Motion carries with Janice and Ken voting against. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, number 6 on the agenda tonight is Dunick Incorporated. You want to come forward and give your names, please?
Lucas Van Epps, representing Dunnick.
Dennis Klug with Dunick.
Barry, when you are ready.
Dennis Klug.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Chairman, this request is for an amendment to the mining requirements for the Holt House pit. I believe it's formerly known as the north portion of the Getsky pit. That has gone through numerous permits and expansions and extensions over the years, most recently for a hot mix plant in 2022. This request is for a night hauling operation in conjunction with the I-94 project. The applicant has submitted the bid sheet that was that MnDOT had provided, indicating the project would be July 22nd through September 26th of 26. So this July 22nd, 2024 through September of 2026. And it does require night hauling as part of that bid packet. So the applicant is here asking for an amendment to the mining and extraction portion of our ordinance, which does allow for night hauling or hauling and operations outside of the 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. timeframe with state, when as part of a state-approved contract. So that's what we're looking at this point for this particular one, is that night hauling operations coming out of the Holt House pit. The township did approve. We did get one neighbor in support of the request, and another one is asking that they ensure that the haul route be limited to the most direct access to State Highway 25. So in this particular case, they want to avoid having any traffic basically going west on Cameron down to 37 and then over to the light.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add?
No, that's the haul route that we're proposing is directly up 131 to 25, so directly to the project.
I can see where that other way would be convenient that, you know, depending upon the time of travel, because you get to a light and you could make that left-hand turn. I can see that left-hand turn being a bugger at maybe 6, 7 o'clock in the afternoon, that not being very friendly. And so I could see some drivers might wanting to go that way, but
During standard hours, it is beneficial to go south to the stoplight. During the operating hours we're talking about, it's gonna be quicker.
it's gonna be a little bit easier.
A little easier and less impacting.
Okay, hell yeah, Barry.
All I got.
Anything more you want to add?
Nope.
Okay, I will ask the public. Is there anyone that would like to comment? This is a gravel pit, Barry. Did we send notices out?
Yes, and we got questions and comments. What I would say is that for the most part, although there's I did receive some concerns about haul routes. The phone conversations I had were more about, it's for these projects, it makes more sense to do it at night than it is during the daytime. So we haven't had there aren't a lot of residences real close to these. We're talking quarter mile, limited residential within a quarter mile.
Okay. Right, if the applicant wants to come back. Does the board have any questions, concerns? Dan?
So this is a 3-year project. Is 25 supposed to be worked on too at the same time?
I think the roundabout at 37 and 25 is.
That technically, that's proposed. It hasn't been approved as far as I know. And it's a 3-season contract, meaning
Right.
they'll widen the lanes this fall, shut down. Next year, they flip the traffic to the widened lanes so they can shut the road down.
Yep.
So the bulk of the hauling evenings is this year.
Oh, it is this year, but
There
it's
is
a 3-year contract all the way. The reason I asked is because if all of a sudden you couldn't get on 25 and that was the only way you could haul, what was gonna happen?
The preliminary setup I saw, actually, they were gonna route the 131 was one of the routes, when they do close that short section of the roundabout.
Oh, so it would still be,
Oh. Okay. Everything I've seen, 131 will not be limited from 25 during that construction.
okay.
The proposed plan I saw, but that's preliminary. Everything's preliminary.
Until it's done.
So, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay, thanks. I was just concerned that, you lock them into 25 and now if they need to go south to get out of there,
Right.
They'll be making short runs.
will it work?
And this contract is just for the hauling out of material?
Correct.
There will be nothing coming back and no hot mix?
Correct.
I'm good.
Any other questions? I guess, how does the board want to proceed?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Mr. Chair, maybe I can help with that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, the proposed motion would be to approve everything as presented by the zoning administrator in the final staff report that is highlighted in red with conditions noted 1 through 12.
What he said.
I'll second that.
And Dan seconds it. Is there any other discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I will provide mind to the applicant so they know what the conditions are. Just some highlights, there are some, a condition that we actually get the signed contract before operations. So we can have a copy of that to verify. That way, if anyone does ask, we have that. So that's one of the things I asked for in here, or any subcontracts in this case. So we would need the contract plus the subcontract to verify you are working for them, it's working for MinDOT. I think that's the only thing of specific note.
Okay, any other questions, comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same way. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 7 is Kevin Bursch.
I'm Joe Holthouse, the landowner representing Kevin tonight. Dunnick's got the job for the material, but they have some material coming off-site, and Kevin, our existing pit on Highway 25, we would like some of that material to put into the bank for reclamation. And that part of the job has not been for sure where it's going. That's why Kevin wanted to come in and get it done before, and it would be site-specific to the same job that Dunnick's has.
Okay, Barry, you want to?
Well, no, Joe did a great job. One of the things we don't have here is that state contract or what portion of the state contract they're getting. So I have I don't have the same parameters of known conditions that I did with that one. That's where this one's a little bit different. Because they're very similar in request, I did more or less copy it, but at this point, I don't even know if it's the same contract number, which we specify in the conditions. So that's where it's kind of hard for us is we have a request, but knowing that what is happening with 94, I know it's with one, but I don't have any specifics on it because the applicant never submitted it. Nor a narrative on what exactly is being requested, whether it's an out or an in or anything else with the actual proposal.
Okay.
So that's the difficult thing that I have here, and that's mentioned out in the staff report, is I don't have a lot of specifics on what the request is for, other than, well, we just want to do night hauling for the I-94 project.
And it would be for the material coming back.
Okay.
If he gets it. It's not 100%.
So that
but
contract
the job was
hasn't-
supposed to start in July, and that part of the job they have not let the bid for. They did the
Okay.
material part, but not the,
They haven't even let the bid for that one yet?
well, they got it out there. They got several people they're working with, and they're working with Kevin Bursch on that part of it, but they haven't told him 100% that he's
So
got the material.
he would be the hauler, and he's hauling into your pit.
Yeah, the state job would be hauling in, and he'd be sloping it in the bank.
Okay. And he's with Valley Paving.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So
And we would want it just site-specific for that job. No other jobs can be.
And no haul out, only haul in.
That's the way I understand it. Yep.
Sandy?
I was just saying, those are nice jobs. They're prevailing wage. Not for the record.
Dan?
So, Mr. Chair, Barry, so wouldn't this be the same job number then?
I don't know how the state runs I don't know how the state runs their contracts, so I can't say.
Yeah, it is the state.
I would assume, but I don't know.
Can we put in there, presuming this is the same number?
I mean, in the motion, it could just say that this is in direct, this is in conjunction with that job number or something like that.
Just in the motion that you have there, maybe just strike state project number. We're still gonna make them, with the same condition as they have to provide us with the signed contract before they can commence hauling. So that portion's still the same. Timeframes, I don't know.
I'll open it up to the public. Is there somebody that would like to shed some light on it, maybe a little bit?
Dennis Klug with Dunnick, just to share the sand that we're hauling or selling to them, they're hauling, they backhaul the black or the muck, the dirt that comes out, so that we're replacing what they're hauling and trying to dump there. So yeah, it's the same contract, it has been bid. and it's a federal contract, so award doesn't officially happen until after July 1st. So that's why there's no contracts yet, because it's federal funding, can't send contracts out till after the 1st. That's why there's a little bit of confusion.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And real quick, so on the haul in part, they'll make a haul in, dump there, get back on 25, go around to the out pit, haul out of there and just make that loop.
Right.
Well, Joe, it's all yours. Just put a road right through so they don't have to come back out on 25.
Well, that's what they're telling me, but we haven't got that far yet.
Well, you just applied for the 80 acres today,
Well,
so.
Someday it could happen. It's very possible.
Any other comments here from the board? Do we,
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, we
We
got
haven't
a
finished
motion
with
on the
this.
floor.
Yeah, you have to finish this one.
You guys got a motion?
do you have a motion prepared, Barry?
To approve the conversion of the existing CUP for mining and extraction to an interim use permit and allow temporary night hauling of materials and operations in the pit from July 22nd, 2024 to December 31st, 2026 for operations specific to the Interstate 94 road project with the following conditions: night hauling for any other project is strictly prohibited. Petitioners are authorized to conduct nighttime hauling between the hours of 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. Nighttime operations are not allowed from Friday at 7 p.m. to Sunday at 7 a.m. Only loading and unloading of material is allowed. Extracting and processing is prohibited outside the standard 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Permit only applies to the movement of aggregate material and does not include the operation of a hot mix plant or moving of hot mix out of the operation. Trucks must enter and exit the pit from the access to State Highway 25 only and may not enter or exit or otherwise use County Road 6 west of State Highway 25. All adequate measures be taken to restrict loud trucks from operating without mufflers or other required sound equipment. Engine dynamic or jake braking is prohibited for all vehicles and trucks coming into or inside of the pit during nighttime hauling, and signage must be posted to remind haulers. Backup alarm shall be disabled on the loaders and dozers used inside the pit during night operation. The petitioners are directed to use strobe lights as an alternative method for backing up. Any nighttime illumination of the pit shall be directed away from neighboring properties and towards the middle of the pit. Signed contract or other form of approval from MnDOT, along with any subcontracts allowing work on the Trunk Highway 94 project, must be provided prior to night operations commencing. The conditions established by previous conditional use permit approval shall remain in place with the exception of the nighttime hauling provisions granted herein. Any change or expansion in use will require a new interim use permit. This permit shall expire upon transfer of the property, termination of any lease agreement, or change in business ownership or operations, or on the designated expiry date of December 31st, 2026.
Do I have somebody to make that
I'll
motion?
motion that.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Ken?
I thought I heard Barry read on line 2, condition 2, at the very end, you said Sunday at 7 a.m.
I
thought
did
heard
make that correction, 7 p.m.
it should be 7 p.m.
Okay. Duly noted. Sandy?
Yep.
Second? Any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries.
All right,
Thank you, guys.
Adjourn 10:03.
Right, Barry, do we have anything else we need to go through?
Well, I can make.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. We're over. Thank you.